what else to share. Oh, well, already.
There we go.
Yep. And let's see. While I fix something here, I'll just wait for people to show up. So
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm gonna share it.
Yeah.
it's already up. So
Yeah, let me.
I just a little bit of oversight here, so I need to get this going. So, but anyway, I would have one. Hey there. We're just getting settled here. Okay, save.
Over
Here we go.
there. What do you got questions? I can
Let's
put it
see.
here.
No, I'm just gonna share it.
Let's see.
I shared it.
And hey, Rachel. Okay.
Share.
And of course, I want to take another bite of the chocolate here. Dark chocolate. I love it.
Share.
We're a milk chocolate family, I think.
I kind of like darker chocolate, but I love.
What?
I love milk chocolate, but a little bit of a hint of dark chocolate, but not full on dark chocolate. If that.
Well, I heard dark chocolate is more healthier, really.
Yes. But.
And for me, it seems like dairy products always seem to get my sinuses going. So
Interesting.
Funny.
yeah, I've just noticed it from transitioning to a more plant-based diet and just getting rid of dairy products. So
Yeah, I just did that recently too. I was on like a 3-month hiatus of dairy and gluten and just kind of see what it did for my thyroid, and I noticed a lot of changes. And it's not easy, I can tell you that, to eliminate. But it was a slow process of getting there.
yeah, that's how I did too. Because at first I was just going with poultry, and then just transitioned to just eliminating meat entirely because I wanted to fit within a budget. And I found it was cheaper to go vegan. As long as you don't get the pre-made stuff, like the processed, like fake meats.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. There's a lot of crap and all that.
Yeah.
A lot of processed stuff that does over the long term. You may not notice it right away, but.
Yeah, it usually is the long-term effects.
Yeah.
Well, and for some stuff, I think you can tell right away, Chris. I mean, I know I can tell on your lives when you're eating that vegan yummy mac and cheese.
We shall not speak of that. That shall not be named. Well, anyway, we better get started here. I think so. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Boop. And here we go. Hey everyone, Christopher D. Casson here, your host for Thru Autistic Eyes, where essentially an autistic adult rediscovering the world. And part of this month is basically the month of growth. So for people wondering how to get through this whole pandemic thing during and afterwards, how to grow in different ways, this is what this month is dedicated to them. And this month, this day, however, we're going to talk about how to grow your relationships during and after all this. So here with me today is 2 great people. They are, I believe, life coaches. They help couples with different kinds of retreats, and it's just amazing. And they also happen to be part of the Next Impactor competition along with me, which is how I met them. And of course, we both end up in the top 5. So I just wanted to thank you both for joining me this evening.
Oh, thanks for having us. We're excited to see you and talk. And
it's been a while since we've been on the show.
Yeah, been a while. It was episode 15 when there was all the top 5 together, and it just went on for about 3 hours.
we're a chatty bunch, aren't we?
Yeah, especially when I have random guests popping in and out every now and then.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
We were in a hurricane.
Were we? I don't remember.
What was it during that episode? Or?
I think so. I think that's the hurricane episode.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boat Wi-Fi.
Boat life. Yeah, we were in a hurricane.
Yeah, but you're no longer in a boat anymore now, so I can't really use hashtag boat Wi-Fi anymore.
You know, right?
No, we should be good.
Yeah, it should be good. So, as we get started with relationships, I'm just curious as the first question of the evening. Have you two been handling this pandemic lockdown as a not only with just in general, but also as a couple? Is there anything new you discovered during this whole period?
Well,
I've learned to let her go first.
Yes, he did. No. Well, we work from home a lot already. So we're spending a lot of time home together. Obviously, we lived on a sailboat, so we had very close quarters. We had gotten used to that. But that year, those couple years prior of living in close quarters and starting to work from home taught us a lot about being, in a sense, in lockdown together. When you go sailing, you kind of don't have anywhere else to go. You're in lockdown together, right?
Yeah.
So learning to coordinate with each other, and again, communication has to step up like 10 times more than usual when you're in these places where you can't go in other directions. So for example, in this pandemic, you've got to step up the communication to talk about what you're feeling, what's going on, what you need to do, what he needs to do, and coming to the table to really get on a common ground for what's going to work,
Yeah.
Yeah, and play.
And play.
Right? And play.
Yeah.
It's our love is not quarantined. Our communication is not quarantined. Our imaginations are not quarantined.
Yeah.
Right? There are, the world that I come from in the sense of the movie industry, there's always a solution. There's any challenge that we have, there's always a solution. And with anything, growth comes from going through that obstacle. And so we are growing as a couple every day, and have been, right? We've been sort of practicing, like Nancy said, for this, right? And we choose to. But learning and really being open with each other in the sense of communication is really important.
Yeah, and I believe this is how you got started. Let's kind of go with a quick recap of who you are and what you provide as life coaches and what got you started in the first place and what led you to where you are today, just for those who are watching this episode for the very first time. Just to quickly go over that.
Well, we are adventure therapists, life strategists, and we use adventure therapy to kickstart people into living the life that they dream about living, that they're secretly dreaming about living. And we do that on many different levels. Adventure is not always just big adventurous, high adrenaline things. It can be as simple as like the challenge that you're in right now.
Yep.
We like to play, like Scott said. So we bring play into people's lives to get them out of their head and to start seeing their habits and patterns of how they show up in their life.
Yeah. So we got started on different paths, Nancy and I, and from my background in being in the film industry and learning about human behavior and understanding how we work as a character, if you will, in this movie, in this game of life. And our character comes up with these things that we do and we say from experiences we've already had or things that we're thinking about, right? And when you think about how that works with the human and the human behavior, it's really easy to tell where people maybe need a boost, right? Where people maybe need a little encouragement. And we do that within in a series of ways of helping to change people's mindset into a growth mindset, into an abundance mindset. And then we really tie it into the physiology, into the muscle memory of our robot, of our bodysuit, if you will, by using adventure. But like Nancy said, the adventures can be as simple as the challenges that we have going now, all the way to ziplining through jungles and having monkeys jump across while you're ziplining.
Yeah, so as people are already figuring out, with during this whole lockdown, that they can't exactly go on adventures, and it provides quite a number of challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you have seen couples facing during this pandemic lockdown, or even around the world, that it's like something new to them, you know?
Yeah, well, you got a lot of couples that there's so many different dynamics, right? You've got couples that have never been home this much together, spent this much time around each other for an extended period of time. And they're used to using, and they don't realize really that they're used to using work and life and taking the kids somewhere. If they don't have kids, their life activities as a buffer in their relationship. You know, it serves at that time apart, which when you get brought together and you have no time apart, you only have you two, right? So you've got to, again, it's that communication. So if you're not used to communicating everything you're feeling when you feel it, like if you get frustrated, if you get pissed off, if you get aggravated, whatever it might be, it's got to be talked about in that moment. So you got couples that are having that problem. Then you've got couples that have been, you know, they work apart and now they're trying to have offices in the same home, you know, they're using the same area. And it's like, okay, well, my work is really quiet and I have to be on the phone all day, you know, so they've got to communicate times and boundaries with each other for how their life at home, or how their work at home is going to work together, you know, so setting those times of communication is huge. You got to talk about it. What works for you, what works for you. But those are a couple of. Yeah,
we found time management has been an issue with couples and with people in general, right? And so what we're suggesting is really set a schedule, right? We still set the time that we're getting up. We still get ready each and every day to go to work, and we, you know, have our breakfast, have our coffee, and we go to work. And that work can be whatever it is, right? It can be teaching your kids right now. It can be play. It can be, but having a routine, right? Sticking to at least some sort of routine right now is helpful for that time management, where people think or feel that if they're working from home, they're just working. They're putting in more hours. They're doing more than they normally would do. We have to set schedules and remind ourselves to play.
Control too. You know, I think a lot of people, what they're feeling is that this lack of control, that uncertainty. So when you can give yourself a little bit of that structure in your life, it kind of gives you that feeling back that you have control over your life.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is first things first, for people that are facing each other so often and all this other stuff, that the first thing they really need to get down is that sense of control through working together with scheduling. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to be like two cats in a sack, basically, eventually.
Yeah, because, you know, if you have a person who's used to, you know, they're a writer, say, they write blogs or they write for a company, and they're home and they're used to being quiet all day, or they're used to being at their computer all day quiet. And then you've got someone who's a lawyer who's on the phone all day, or that they have calls but they're under the same roof now. That's very contradictive. And they're like, shut up, I'm trying to type. And he's going to, you know, it causes that.
Go in the corner.
Yeah. You know?
Go in your corner.
Sometimes, like, okay, you work from 8 to whatever, I'll work from, or, you know, if your house is large enough, different rooms. But some people don't have that luxury. You've got
like some that end up working in the kitchen, like working in the dining room on their laptop, while people going in and out, whether it be like the spouse or the kids just going into the kitchen to get what they want and coming out and all this noise. And I can only imagine, well, not imagine because it's kind of like that around where I am with people moving about. And it's like, can I have some Zen time or something? Or just, but yeah, I can only imagine what it would be like for a couple that this is basically the first time they actually have to deal with something like that, of being around each other more often, them recognizing, like little traits that they might not like as much about them that gets under their skin, so to speak. So how would I had something going here. Hold on. Beep beep. Well, where I was going with this is how to really because some just stay silent on the matter, and then it just eventually boils over into this big fight. So obviously, for something like that, the habits, they need to talk to each other, right?
Yeah, and the communication that we use not only with each other, but to ourselves in those situations, right? And just as an example, it could be that the one spouse just doesn't want to hear the other spouse right now, right? They're not used to having all of this together, and they just, right? And out of frustration, we may say something like, "Hey, I don't want to hear your voice anymore." Right? That's one way that we can say that. Or we can choose to say, I maybe needed some time alone. Right? I maybe need a few moments to myself. Right? So the language that we use can help or it can hurt. Right? And the language we use to ourselves can do the same thing. So if we get frustrated with something that our spouse does or our partner, and we, to ourselves in the cage of the mind, decide to say, well, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just because we're in quarantine. It's this, it's that, it's excuse. Instead of just saying, hey, I really wish that when the sink is empty and you put a dish in there that you just put it in the dishwasher.
Yeah, it's basically just trying to avoid the confrontation because of, fear.
Yeah, right? And to have a communication about it instead of, trying to hide.
Yeah, and you can also look at it as the meaning we give this right now. Is it a time that you can recharge your relationship? Like you said, there are these things that they're not used to noticing in their partner because they're not around them, say this much, or that they thought never annoyed them or annoying them. Well, maybe let's do some things within the relationship, if you're noticing those things, to flip it, to recharge it, to look at it differently, and look at what you can do. Like if you're driving me nuts, I don't want to hear your voice right now. What can you do? Can you go for a walk? Can you, what can you do for yourself to take yourself out of that situation? There's always ways that we can go about things, think about things before we communicate.
Yeah, part of my reasoning for this is, I do check out the Facebook groups for people with autism, and for some, they are in a relationship, but then it could be a lot for them since, autism, we need our space sometimes and the recharge, but with the other spouse maybe not as understanding about it, it could end up blowing up when all they want to do is be able to decompress, just to have that space, and it isn't anything offensive or personally, it's just what it is. So if that kind of situation blew up, I'm guessing they just need to be able to simply communicate and just to talk it out instead of thinking it's just not taking it so personally sometimes. And I think that's the kind of thing that it's basically like even regular couples deal with, only this one's a bit more of a bigger scale, because in my opinion, because you know, I know, yeah, I know what that other person is feeling with the autism since I have it myself, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, right, and we all need time apart. And it's really about communicating that within our boundaries that we set for others. Right? We teach people how to treat us, and in the very beginning of any relationship, whether it's a partner in this sense, a business partner, a friend, a family member, there are boundaries that we set, and if we can when we keep those in place, right, then we tend not to have these big blow-ups because things are already understood that we communicate. If we feel something, we communicate it, and so we tend not to have those explosions because the emotion doesn't overrun the barrel, right? It's not overflowing that emotion that we hold on to, and then boom, we pop. If we communicate from the very beginning, we don't have that level of emotion come out.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have the sense of feeling trapped either, which I think a lot of people feel like they're trapped right now. They can't do anything.
Yeah, especially in some states where it's basically locked down, where they can't even go outside the home and even be in their yard.
Yeah, you know, and again, it's okay. Well, then what can you, if you need that time apart, rather than just feeling like, oh my God, I'm trapped, there's nothing I can do. There's always something we can do, but you've got to communicate it with the other person to get them on board to help you, because they don't know what's going on in your mind. No one knows what's going on in your mind, no matter how much you wish they did. You know, I think we get into relationships, we do that in relationships where we kind of hope, well, if I act like this, if I slam this down, if I do this, if I slam the cupboard, they should know I'm upset and they should ask me about whatever. But that's not always the case, because you don't know what their triggers are. That might make them just completely close up, like, oh crap, I'm not going to talk to them. And it just builds walls even bigger and bigger. Where, you know, again, when you just break the wall and just communicate of what's going on with you, what you're feeling, it just opens things up to be able to, and it goes in your favor, it goes in everyone's favor. You know, you're able to help the whole room by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that being easy for some, but for some, such as, you know, on the autistic spectrum, it could be a little bit more difficult with the communication part, not necessarily because of not wanting to communicate at all, but just you know, sometimes the words don't always come out right and whatnot. So it's just,
yeah, and it's not just people on autistic scales. You'd be amazed at the amount. I was one who could not communicate what I was the one I just described. I slammed stuff, hope that someone just noticed that, Jesus Christ, I need to talk, you know, and no one did. But when I learned to communicate what I was feeling, and again, yeah, it takes time, but you do a fantastic job of letting people know, hey, it might take me a minute to gather my thoughts. You communicate to people, you know, this is my style. This is how I operate. So just give me a minute, or, you know, you're very open with that, and it allows people to, okay, wait.
And you should expect nothing less in a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? It's again, how we teach people how to treat us. And I think that's really important.
and by the way, hey there, Patty.
Patty.
Hey, Patty.
Aw, what's up? She's holding her little grandbaby.
Aw.
Aw.
And yes, Nancy, definitely.
Mm.
So, yeah, and where was I? And you know, an interesting thing I've found is, you know, for a lot of people, this is a really new thing of being like isolated like this with the stay-at-home orders. But for a lot of autistics, the stay-at-home order kind of feels more like something they already deal with every day. And I guess maybe a part of me wonders if this experience has given people maybe a little bit of a window into our world. And do you think this could be the case, or maybe even experience what people not as fortunate have to deal with bringing better realizations such as shut-ins and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's a great perspective.
I think there's so many lessons that come out of this for so many different people. And that's really the beauty, is that for everyone, there will be a different journey. There'll be a different lesson. And I think that, I really feel that the lesson that each of us get is the one that we needed. If we're lucky enough to have the awareness to see that there's a gift within this, that there's a lesson for us to learn within ourselves, within this moment, right? It's not about the moment, it's about within ourselves in this moment. And maybe it's about how we treat people. Maybe it's about how we treat ourselves. Maybe it's looking into the self to see like where the bad habits are, right? With people that it brings up in this moment, right? Yeah. Why do we have to distract so much with work and with bars and with all these other distractions that keep us busy in the cage of the mind? And the minute we're asked to sit and be silent and just sit, it's so difficult for people. So why are you distracting? What are we running from?
Why are you binge watching Netflix now?
Yeah.
That's what some people are doing, because they're just trying to find any kind of distraction away from actually facing what their thoughts are on other people, or even just people within their own home, and they're just, or even just facing themselves. When a lot of times when people think of something bad about a person, it's usually also something about a trait that they recognize within themselves but don't want to face it,
Yeah.
And that's go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and we're taught that, everyone's taught to distract. It's a coping mechanism we're given, and it's getting, unfortunately for a lot of people, it's getting worse because of the screens. You got kids that are, no, don't worry about sitting quiet at dinner. Here, look at a screen, look at a movie. Don't just be in imagination staring out the window on the road trip and cry when you need to. Stare at a screen. And I get that it helps on, a movie here and there on a road trip. Awesome, but the entire time you're not teaching a young mind to learn how to cope. And we've done that for generations and generations. So we've been taught not to cope with our thoughts. Just do this, it distracts you from it. Do this, kind of subconsciously.
And even bigger than that, right? We've been trained to take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Right? Society has trained us into take the easy way out, right? That's my belief. And it is no harder to give your if we're talking about kids and road trips, give your kid a book than it is to give them an electronic device. Okay, I've seen it and I've done it, right? So it's, again, what are we willing to put in? What are we willing to put in to have whatever it is we want? Right? And if we want to stay in this robot world, then we can, or we can break free of it. We're getting a little wild.
Yeah, but it's all connected, and kind of, as Patty mentioned here in the comment, we are being programmed by the programming.
We truly are.
We
truly are.
No, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead. I was going to segment into another question, but go ahead. I'm interested in hearing what you were about to say.
No, I was going to say about Patty, it is like and what Scott was saying of, the programming, and it also comes down to, again, it's on us. Like it's easier as a, and it's not easier as a parent. You don't want to hear your kid cry. So that's the thing that they're like, you're trying to feed them that, but what can you do to step out to teach them more for later on in their life? It's going to teach them so much in that moment for later on coping in everyday situations and in what they have to go through in life and all those different things. So much in that little learning moment. But again, you got to step out of yourself in that moment.
Yeah, and speaking of phones and all that, some say that, such as you connecting too much to their phones and computers and divided us from having that personal talk face to face and being able to connect. But with this pandemic happening, it seems like it's been a very important tool to still be able to communicate with family and friends, with not being able to face each other because of the whole stay-at-home order. So what are your thoughts on how this is going to continue moving forward, and how much an effect this is going to have? Is it going to have people connect via electronics even more? Is it going to be maybe the same old streak? Or what are your thoughts on this?
So I think that right now, I think it's a great tool, right? I think that it's going to keep people in far distances connected in the sense of family. But I do think, like any good tool, that when this pandemic is over, people are going to put them down and want that interpersonal connection. As human beings, we thrive for it. So this is great. And again, it's a great tool, but it's like taking a wrench or a hammer out of your toolbox and using it while you need it and then putting it away. There's a study done with monkeys. And I mean, there's been many studies done, but this one was in particular to what we're talking about. They would separate a monkey and leave it by itself. And the one that was by themselves would die off simply because they wouldn't even eat, because they weren't getting the touch and being held and having that community. Humans are so much like that in the sense of we desire and need that. So I think it's going to go, I think people are going to take big action to have interpersonal connection with like-minded people. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think I do. I think it's one of the gifts that are going to come out of this for people, because we were in such a state of battling that balance of technology. People were consumed with it, but knew like, well, I shouldn't be so consumed in it, or it's I don't go out as much. I don't call people as much. I don't. And this is forcing us to be in it so much and not be able to be around people, that I think it's going to be kind of a light bulb effect for them, like Scott said, when it's over, to be aware that, oh my God, how much did I miss people? And that's going to flood back into their life, I think, even more than it was before, which, us, we're always promoting interpersonal connection, because the technology has, over the years, has been growing so dominant. It's been affecting relationships. It's been, affecting people's lives. It's been holding them back from being able to communicate and being able to talk to people normally, and social standards, all that stuff. So I think this is going to be kind of a gift for people, because they're being forced to be in it so much, that it's going to show them like, you know what, I'm sick of it. I want to be around people, and kind of realize how much they had that in their life before, that they didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah, and as Patty made another comment, sometimes we need to feel the impact of life in order to work through what makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah, definitely a great point. So let's see. So, for some people, it's making them become, as I said, more isolated and difficult to be in contact with others when they're usually social butterflies, So they may feel it's becoming too much to be away from family and friends like this, and they want that connection, but it can bring about that sense of loneliness and, anxiety, depression, all kinds of stuff, being isolated like this. So what are some of the things they could do in the meantime to deal with this? Because I know you guys have been doing a couples challenge and a self-improvement challenge, which I'm a part of. So why don't you tell us more about this, and even other ways that people can really deal with this kind of situation as a couple, or being able to do stuff with friends? Because I've certainly seen a lot of interesting stuff that people have done.
Yeah. So I think that if you're feeling lonely, sad, or depressed, that you really need to reach out, right? There's lots of places to reach out. We're one of them, right? We're a resource for people to reach out to. The other thing that's really important is to really be aware of where you're jumping into the future or you're living in the past, right?
Mm.
When is this going to be over? How are we going to do things when it's over? What are we going to do, right?
It's never gonna be
and it's never going to be over, right? Or staying in the negative tumbler, if you will, of the news, right? We tend to find a lot of people right now having CNN, Fox News, somebody on in the background, right? While they're being anxious and depressed.
Just turn the TV off at that point.
Off, right?
Yeah.
And really practice the presence of now. Right? When we get sad, when we get anxious, when we get depressed, anxiousness comes from our idea of the future and what it should hold. Right? Our depression, our sadness generally comes from past experiences that we haven't looked into or uncovered or dealt with or gone through, right? Challenges that we tried to go around, under, or over instead of through, then haunt us with sadness, right? And when we attach to the stories that we make up about those things, then we suffer, right? So we can get out of ourselves by joining communities, by joining groups, by joining things like our challenges, which do what?
They get you to play, like we said, it's this pandemic has, like we were talking about, it has brought up so many things for so many people to the surface of their own awareness about themselves. Like, oh my God, I didn't realize, this, or I didn't realize I felt like this, or I didn't even know I had anxiety. I had no idea I ever felt anxious. There was one of the hosts on the Today Show said he's never had a bout of anxiety ever, and had the worst anxiety attacks for like the first 2 weeks of this whole pandemic. That's a lot of people, because again, we're distracting all the time, and now we're in this place of uncertainty, and we've never learned how to deal with uncertainty in our life in a healthy way of what if I have to sit in it? Very different, so our challenges are getting people to think outside the box and to think outside the box of ways to look inside yourself, ways to understand yourself and why you behave the way you behave, why you tick the way you tick in your relationships, which is the couples, and then also for just individual yourself, which is that we're doing a self-care, because our whole thing is self-care is the number one most important thing in the world. We cannot be for others if we're not 100% ourselves. Yeah. And everyone's going escapism routes right now of, drinking too much, sleeping, and it's fine if you want to catch up on sleep because all you've done for the last 15 years is wake up at 5 a.m. Sure, sleep in, get on that sleep. But if you can't get out of bed because you're depressed and you're upset and you don't know what to do with what's going on, that's different. If you're drinking yourself to sleep, that's different. So self-care in a positive way of not going the escapism route, and same thing in relationships. So we're bringing it into the couples. What can you do in your relationship to bring it to its next level, to get to know your partner a little better? Yeah. Dive deeper into that, and that's really what the challenges are about. And they're play, they're fun, they're getting people to, step outside their comfort zone and be goofy. We used to do it as a kid and we didn't even think about it. And now it's like, oh my God,
Yeah. It's certainly better than just Netflixing, watching Tiger King, and then just bash, hating on Carol Baskins together.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, my sister told me the best one-liner now that's out there of "You're asking for a basket." That's great.
Yeah, I've seen so many good memes from that. Just to go on a side note, there, such as the one of Baskin Robbins with the sign saying "We're not associated with Carol Baskins in any way."
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, Christopher.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the memes are amazing during this whole quarantine. I don't know who comes up with them, but I love them.
Yeah, and another one where it's like at some sort of baseball game or something, and a couple talking saying, "Hey, if we team up with our stimulus checks, we could buy a tiger."
Yeah. It's like, what?
Oh, that's a good one. I hadn't seen that one.
I love it.
Yeah, but that's just another thing. People are getting some are doing what you're doing, and then there's some that are still trying to distract themselves and not wanting to face it by just binge watching Netflix. And then by the end of this, they're still in the same ruts, and it's just, what's it going to take to, just to be able to face face those nightmares, face that inner self that scares you,
Mm.
And as Patty says, self-care is about cleaning out the clutter. That is a good time to throw out the trash.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? It's a great time to declutter, to declutter ourselves. And it's to go back to what you just said, it's really up to those people, right? It's you have to see where you're going to be wrong, see that you want the change, right? That you want something different out of life. If you keep getting the same results and the same results and the same results, you got to do something different, right? Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Right? Yet we do it all the time in everything that we do. We get into these habits and patterns, and we just think, this always happens to me. It always ends up like this. That's because you're not taking different steps to get a different outcome, right? So if you want something different, if you want a life that you don't feel like, all I do is sit on the couch, or you want something different in your life, you have to change your path. And you can't have a new path by going, I want a new path, right?
Magic happened without any effort from me. So, and it's just, what do we call it? Self-entitlement?
Effortless.
Yeah.
We'll just call it effortless. And as Patty again has said, it's hard to throw away those old comfortable slippers for some. And, hey, Kat.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, Kat, Dawn. Love what you're doing, especially speaking of that, with this, it also this pandemic and the shutdown has also brought up a lot of domestic violence due to stuff like, for some, they're already in the abusive relationship, and now they're stuck home all the time. So now they have to try to somehow communicate without getting into more let's just call it serious trouble. And also sometimes, as you said, for some reason liquor stores are called essential, so now people are bringing home a lot more liquor, and then it brings up all these other issues. So it's like, and like Kat just said, 75% increase nationwide due to this. So it's like, well, what do you do if you are in that type of situation? Where do you go to?
Well, I'm sure Kat has a million references of numbers to call and different things. There's places to reach out. It's the biggest challenge. The only challenge we have with ourselves is us.
Yeah.
No matter what situation we're in, and it's when you're in those tough situations, there's stuff that goes on that none of us that have ever been in it that can even think to relate to. But there comes a point where these people reach out, and whether it's the numbers are finally in their face and they know where to go to reach out, they know what to do finally, or they got the courage, or whichever. Again, like Scott said, it's looking at the lesson in this. Maybe it's awful to say, but maybe being around them that much more is going to finally shed light on them that I got to get out. Who knows? Yeah. Everybody's journey is different, and you can't speak for someone else, because no matter what, it comes down to them for wanting to change.
Well, and that's it, right? It has increased. People's tempers are increased in this time. People are drinking more, and yes, it has gone up in every city. The hotlines are ringing off the hook. What I would tell somebody is if they're in that situation, to get out, right? Reach out, get out. And it does come down to, there'll be a moment that you can make that choice right? It may be difficult. It may be in 2 days. It may be in 10 hours. It may be in 3 days. There'll be a moment. And if you really, truly want out, take the moment, right? We have to take the moment. We have to make the choice in the moment to get out. And if it means, whatever it means for you, it's that, again, it's if you want a different outcome, if you want something different in your life, no matter what it is, you have to take an action toward it. You have to take an action toward it. If you're going to build a path and you want that path out, you got to lay one stone, right? Lay one stone, see what happens. But reach out, speak up.
That's what I was going to say. Speak up. Even people that know people that are in situations, speak up about it. A lot of people stay silent when they know something weird's going on, because I don't know if I should get involved. I don't know if I should have a conversation, ask somebody, talk to them. Speaking up literally saves lives in every element.
Yeah, and as Kat also just said, must be willing to evolve, grow, and things not look what you think you need it to look like. And of course, there are also not only hotlines, but also nonprofits such as Kat with A New Dawn that helps women now going through domestic violence. So. Or if you are staying silent, now is your time to hoard and make smart moves.
Yeah, right. And there's plans that can be put together. There's people that can help. Kat has a fundraiser going right now. If anybody can help out, we did what we could today, and I hope we kicked something off for her. But help her out, right? She's helping. She's helping a lot of people.
Definitely. And as Patty just mentioned here, this pandemic is unearthing all things at once, and it can be intense. And also, as Kat mentions, get smarter than your abuser. Make tactical moves. Now's the time.
Yeah. Right. Make tactical moves. I like that.
Yeah.
Makes it sound like you're in the army.
I like it. Yeah, but it's that same thing, right? It's about making that choice. And a lot of people feel that they don't have a choice, right? We hear it all the time. I don't have a choice. I can't do this. I can't do that. We have a choice in every single thing we do.
Yeah.
Everything. Be aware of your choice moments. Make choices that are profound for you. Right? Make choices that are profound for you, for your life, for your happiness, for your love.
Yeah, because you matter. As another big thing for these people is they have been told so many times that they're a piece of crap, they don't matter, this and that. Knowing that you do, it doesn't matter. All of that is false, and your self-worth is worth a million. So get out there and make the choice to make you number one.
Yeah, but as she mentioned, no one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
Exactly.
And she loves both of you guys.
Aww.
She's sweet.
Yeah, and also Garrett, who was in the previous episode, is saying, "Hey, this is great advice," And and on top of that, there's also been a bit of a fighting going along, and I'm guessing you already know what's leading into this, because this whole pandemic has also caused, families, friends, and sometimes even couples to have their own opinions on this whole lockdown, and some taking it seriously to an extreme, such as, oh, we gotta put on masks, we gotta stay at home, bunkled down, kind of like those videos with during the 1950s with the whole nuclear bomb duck and cover kind of thing, and having their own bomb shelter, going to that extreme. And then there's others that, for some, think they're not really taking it as seriously enough and just going out being very careless, and that could cause so much friction, especially when it's like a wife and a husband that have their own separate views to the extremes, and such as one side saying the fear of, it's basically comes down to one side having the fear of government extremely overreaching, and the other towards the fear of the disease about to eradicate us all, kind of thing. So how would they fix something like that, especially since they now don't really have a choice, especially in some states where you can't even leave your homes, on how to deal with this kind of clash of views?
Yeah, so we can have different opinions, right? And we can have different opinions, right? And again, it comes down to the emotion that we put behind that. So for people that are really invested in the idea of whatever story that they're telling themselves and their belief, right? We all have beliefs, and our beliefs have all been drummed into us from a very young age.
Yeah.
And it's generally not something that we talk about within our relationships, right? It's one thing that we uncover for people within our coaching business, within our coaching model. Yeah. But we can be kind to each other and still have differences of opinion. The challenge comes in when we've been married for 35 years and we're just now starting to communicate because we're trapped in a house together and we have no idea how to communicate to each other, right? And so again, it's having the awareness, seeing something that makes that awareness click in for people, to allow them the opportunity to then grow within their communication, right? To grow their relationship and how they treat each other, and how you can have a difference of opinion.
And to know why the other person has their opinion. You know, that's the other thing. No one ever asks to wonder why you think the way you think. It's just, oh, well, you think opposite of I do? Well, let me tell you why you should think why I think. You know,
we get that a lot.
Yeah, and everyone's opinion comes from somewhere. Like Scott said, it comes from something that they hold on to, something that means something to them. So salespeople are the best people to tell you, in order to persuade somebody, you got to know why they think what they think. So to just see someone's other point of view and to know that it doesn't have to be your point of view, but maybe get to know your partner a little better and understand why they think the way they think, and why is that so important to you, and then, well, this is why it's so important to me, and maybe uncover some new things about yourselves that you've never talked about before, because if you had, it wouldn't be such a disruption in the relationship to have the opposite opinions to begin with.
Gee, it sounds like this episode should be called Communicate.
Yeah, that's how I was going to sum it up at the end here. It always comes down to communicating, and you tend to think that we are good at communicating, but then with the shutdown, it turns out, well, maybe you weren't as good as communicating as you thought. You know?
Right, and learning, being open to the opportunity to learn new ways to communicate, right, or new exercises to do, and if there's people out there that are having challenges within their relationships, you know, we have free tools, we have free programs that work for people that can just
started, at least get started on it. You know? Yeah. It's I lost what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Yeah, such as the challenges, and even I've heard of, you know, during Easter where people decide, since the families are separated during Easter, they decide to do a Zoom live stream of everyone having dinner together with each other, only in front of a screen. You know, so people are getting a little bit creative. So I'm wondering, what other types of challenges can people give themselves? Because I know you have your own challenges, and I don't. And I know you probably don't want to reveal all of them, since you would like people to join in on the fun. But what are some of the things that they can do during this? Because I know for the single one I'm part of, one of them is actually doing yoga. And I remember that one video you just recently posted of you two doing yoga together. So I still need to really watch that. But I saw the screen cap. That's like, I gotta see this after this show. But
If you want a
what
good
what what are some other activities that they could do?
Fun.
comical.
Yeah, it was quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to reveal too much because we have people going through it right now. But some of the things that have already, some of the challenges that have already been dropped are, yoga, engaging in that, because that is helpful on so many levels, right? It's
Self-care bingo.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to get to that. But yeah, we have self-care bingo going on. But the yoga is really good because anyone can do it. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your disability, what you're capable of. They have yoga for every level. You can do chair yoga. I mean, everything. And it just stretches you out. I mean, everyone is on computers right now all day, at least for half the day. And it puts us in a position that really can cramp up your neck and everything. So if you can stretch that out, it'll make you feel better for the rest of your day and the week. But yeah, we have self-care bingo. But going outside, just getting outside, getting yourself present rather than being outside walking to go think some more. Don't do that. Go outside and pay attention. Look at the trees. Look at the birds flying around. Take everything in. Get out of your head.
Or as Patty mentioned, writing a letter, putting it in the mail, and give your message a personal touch.
Oh, that's great. I just got one from my niece, actually. It was the cutest thing. I haven't gotten a letter in the mail in forever. And also, I have a letter from my niece, and she was doing that. She was like, I'm writing to all my loved ones because I'm bored and just looking for something different to do. But it was such a nice little gift to get. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen that. Also, the same with people in the old folks' home as well, since they're definitely in lockdown right now. So that's another thing people can do, whether as a couple, whether with teaming up with friends online to work something out, just how you could take this as not only to know each other a bit more, but also how you could work together to accomplish great things, and just be able to grow from that.
Yeah. And help others, right? What can you do? And it doesn't have to be go outside your house, right? We have a Zoom happy hour that we do, that people come in and just hang out, right? And we just talk. There's so many resources out there that we can get to not feel alone, to not feel by ourselves, even though physically we are right now. We can still connect in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So since we've talked so much about these challenges and the whole happy hour Zoom call, for those that are interested, how can they really hop onto this, to join in and see all the things they could gain from it?
They can go to our Facebook page, Scott and Nancy Kiesling. They can go to our personal pages, which I think are probably linked to this. And we've been posting about these challenges. They're in there. Or they can message us at Scott and Nancy Kiesling. But the links are in and around. We've been posting about them for the last couple weeks. But if you just want to get the link directly, just message us at our Facebook page and we'll send it to you if you want to take part.
Okay. And of course, if they want to learn more about your adventures as soon as this whole pandemic thing is open, how can they contact you and just learn more about you and what you offer?
They can visit our website at scottandnancykiesling.com.
Perfect.
Nice. And I'm kind of curious, since you usually do these trips, but of course they've been delayed. So what's the next upcoming one that couples should really pay attention to?
November would be our next one coming up. Yeah, and that's posted on our website. But it's to Costa Rica. It's got a lot of adventure, a lot of fun.
And and just anybody that wants to contact us, we are waiting on some openings, but we do have some trips planned.
We just can't move forward.
We're on
hold.
We're on hold for everything, but there are some great plans in the works. Not only out of the country, but we're going to do more here in the U.S. Some mini retreats, if you will. And those are going to be anywhere from 2 to 5 days. They're going to be just as adventurous as all the fun things we do.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember seeing before, like visiting the waterfalls and all the other great stuff.
Yeah, we love jungles, so the more jungles we can visit, the better. We love playing in the jungles, so that's why we love to zip line and go waterfall rappelling and all that fun stuff. But whitewater rafting here in the States is great. There's wonderful zip lining here too in the state, rock climbing, you name it, we'll do it.
Yeah, and we're getting actually to the top of the hour, so I just wanted to thank you too for joining and just being able to help us get through this, whether it be relationship problems with your spouse or maybe with a friendship that's being rather strained at the moment for various reasons. And just wanted to thank you guys for hopping on at, I guess you could say, a bit of a short notice, but
no, thanks for having us, Chris. We really appreciate it, and again, we're honored to be even asked to be on your show, and we love talking with you all the time. So
appreciate that.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah. So of course, with Thru Autistic Eyes, we do have. Well, I do have the website at christophercaston.com/podcast to learn more about it, more about me and what I do. And also, of course, we have Facebook and an Instagram page, as well as a Patreon. So to be able to give your support to help keep this show going, and just to be able to, for me to be able to learn more about the world and just have great guests such as Scott and Nancy Kiesling to keep coming on. And of course, be able to share this with anyone that, like I said, maybe going through some couple troubles from being closed in, and be able to help them be able to get through it with such great advice that we've gotten here. And again, I just wanted to thank you all once again. This is Christopher D. Casson, host of Thru Autistic Eyes, and I certainly hope you continue watching as we get through the month of growth and just learn all the different ways that we can grow, So thanks and take care.